Hey traders, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing some analysis on US30. We're going to be talking about the stock market, the US indices. I've had a couple requests about this recently. People have been talking about it quite a bit, and actually here in the office, Will and I were talking about it today. So I figured I would just do a quick update to share my thoughts as I've been looking at it either ways. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through a couple charts, mostly the US30, which is similar to the Dow, and then you've got the S&P 500 or SPX500, and then we've also got Nasdaq 100. So I'm going to do a quick analysis of each one, share my thoughts with you guys. Actually, what you'll notice here is that if we see price here actually came down to the 50 moving average and actually found a perfect bounce off of those lows just recently, right around on US30 here, the 24.56.0 level. Okay, so we came down there and we found strong support. In fact, if you look at this candle, you can actually see how bullish this thing really looks. You can see that we came down and we found strong support. Now the question here is this actually going to hold, and are we going to continue to rally? Well, we've got a couple different levels of resistance to think about here if stocks are going to trade higher. And for those of you who are forex traders who can trade US30, the Dow Jones, that sort of thing, this is also relevant information. So we've got the high previously, of course, 27,622 here on US30. Now the question is, can we, number one, can we get back to that point? Can we get enough steam behind this rally that we're seeing to actually get up above this level? And can we actually even break through it? Now, the big question here, of course, is watching this 200 period moving average closely, because what you'll notice is that during all of this time here, from February all the way through March and even through June, we had the market trading underneath the 200 period moving average. Now, if you've watched my channel for a little while, you know that I think of that as a pretty bearish indication. When the market is trending long term above or below the 200 period moving average, a lot of times we see that continuation. Well, recently we actually closed above it. We did make a stab above, but what concerns me here in terms of seeing US30 rally continue is that we actually only stayed up above the 200 period moving average for a total of let's say 1, 2, 3, 4 days, and on the 5th day we were back below. Now today it will be very interesting to actually watch what ends up happening on US30, because you can see right now we are very much testing the 200 period moving average. Now, if we actually drop it down very quickly to the, let's go to the 4-hour chart, you can see price has rallied off very beautifully. We've seen some strength, but now we're starting to see a little bit of a red candle form. Now, this is where it's going to get interesting, because we go back to that daily chart as we trade around this 200 period. It's a big indication a lot of times when price is able to close above or below the 200 period. Again, a lot of institutional traders, a lot of retail traders, a lot of traders in general use the 200 period daily moving average as a long-term trend indicator. And so if price continues to struggle at this level, it could actually be bearish in favor of the previous trend that we just saw happening on US30 from that big all-time high. So if we're showing signs of rejection, it actually could be bearish. Now again, it's gonna come down very strongly to how much this market wants to rally. If we do see price close above, I would say very strong chance we head back to at least the previous high or the previous structure high here at 27,600. Okay, that would be my first level to keep an eye on. The next level, of course, is that if we do see that, the bullish case could actually continue. We've seen a lot of bullish news coming out here recently, and in fact, I think there's even some talks right now, or at least some back and forth about stimulus 2.0 kind of stuff coming out, which could actually be interesting for stuff like the Dow Jones, watching to see how the market reacts to that. Again, the market has been extremely trendy. I mentioned this the other day. The market has been incredibly trendy lately. So we've seen a big downtrend here, a big uptrend here, and watching for that next big catalyst could likely throw us into either another downtrend or another uptrend. It's really going to come down to what the news actually is, and with the technicals we can actually look to get involved. And that is how I personally like to trade, is I like to find that fundamental bias and then look for the technicals to help me get involved. So we've also got some trend lines here that I wanted to also mention. If you are a bear, there are some key levels here that I am personally watching. So we saw the rally here one time, two times, three times here. So we've got a pretty strong bullish case here off of this trend line here, and looking for the break could actually be a decent idea if you're a bear. So if you're looking for the bearish setup, if we see rejection, not saying we absolutely will, but if we were to see it, a trade setup like this could actually be a decent probability, and looking for that trend to continue to the downside if it starts to get going. I'd say that's probably where the biggest edge lies, in my opinion, is waiting for the market to show bearishness and then trying to jump on and ride it rather than trying to predict exactly when it's going to start. Because at the time being, we are seeing a rally, and we want to be unbiased. I know a lot of people are bearish on the stock market across the board, and so we want to be unbiased here. We want to say only be bear if we actually see the signs that we need to see in order to get bearish. Now, again, the bullish case, there's one more thing, key thing here, which is basically, again, we've got this trend line to the bottom side. If we see that continue, very good chance that we could want to get up to this point here, the previous high, and looking for even the continuation from there. If we see a breakout, that's where things could get interesting. And I think that's what we would need to actually see price get back to that previous high of that 29,600 rough area. Okay, so that's what I'm watching for on US30 specifically. I want to also take a look at Nasdaq, because if you take a look at NAS100 right now, this is the Nasdaq 100 index. You can actually see that price is just about at all-time highs, which is, say what you want about it. There's controversy on both sides. People who say it should be going higher and people who say it should be going lower. But regardless, as technical traders and especially short-term traders, we just need to trade what we see. We need to get involved with what is actually in front of us, not what we want to happen. So when we're looking at NAS100 and we see price actually holding the retest here, I'd say it's actually a pretty decent chance we could be headed back to previous highs once more, right? So we're talking 10,150 roughly as the previous high. If price gets there, my personal opinion is much like how I was talking about gold previously. I don't necessarily want to be a buyer at the highs. Personally, I would much rather wait for some sort of significant pullback here. But let's assume that this high is in for now. I'm going to grab a Fibonacci retracement and show you guys something that I was looking at earlier today. And show you something interesting about this chart. So if we actually go from the low that we formed in March to the all-time high here, and we form this Fibonacci retracement, I really like this setup here. I like the idea of waiting if we were to see some bearishness. If that was to happen for us, that 38.2% retracement, let me show you something really cool about that. If price were to pull back here, we've got a couple different technical indicators on top of the fact that we wouldn't just be buying the highs, which definitely intrigues me a lot more. So if we were to see a pullback here, we've got structure. If we look left, we've got previous resistance, which broke through and is now potential support. And we've got the 200 period moving average, which could line up very nicely. And as you guys know, a lot of times the 200 period moving average acts as a dynamic level of support or resistance. So if price were to come back to that point, this is where I would be looking for some continuation. This is where I would get intrigued with looking to go long. Personally, my opinion would not be to be a buyer at the highs unless you are, short-term breakout trading or doing something like that. I personally would stay away from trying to buy into the move, trying to buy into the upside, just because this market is very, very dramatic right now, and one sign of bad news could cause it to dump. And so we just have to be cautious. And so my personal opinion here is looking for the pullback, looking for signs of support, looking for significant levels of support that could actually hold, and creating some higher probability setups that don't expose me to buying the all-time highs. That's something that for me is a little bit tough to do. Even though we've seen a lot of bullishness in this market, I would rather wait to see some sort of signs of weakness. I'd rather buy into weakness in an overall strength uptrend before trying to just jump in just because it's at the highs. Guys, I hope this was helpful to you. This was my thoughts there on US30 and NAS100. Also, I just want to just briefly touch on SPX500 just because I said I would. Very similar, where actually we tagged that 200 period and we even tagged the 50 or just very close to it and actually held. So much like US30, looking very, very similar here. So I'm not going to say too much more. You guys already saw my analysis there. So let me know what you guys think. Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Comment down below. I'd love to hear from some of you guys, and we will see you back in the next video.